and welcome to GuildGab, episode 97. This is a show all about Guild Wars 2, and today we're discussing the newest Living World episode, Long Live the Lich. I'm your host, AuroraPeachy, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Alex of Literally Playable, and the one and only MMO Inks. It's been a while. It's been 3.5 months.
It has.
Wow.
It feels
longer.
It does.
It's been a long while. It's good to see you guys. Before we get started, guys, this is your spoiler warning that we are discussing everything about the new episode today. So if you haven't played it yet and don't want spoilers, please bookmark this video for another time and come back to it once you have completed it. Because we be talking all about everything.
Yeah.
Already see some praise Oreens.
Praise Oreens. I don't know if I ever told you this. There was one GuildGab that we were doing. I think it was during season 3, and I was finishing off the episode as we were doing the GuildGab.
You were actually playing
I was
the game.
trying to fly through the rest of the story. Just as we were finishing the episode, I was like, yes, I know what's going on here.
The truth comes out.
Yeah. Professional streamer, ladies and gentlemen. Professional streamer.
Yes. Oh, you'd be surprised what I do, like, right before the show starts. It's like, oh, crap, I gotta make this graphic. I forgot. Oh, man. No, I love chatting about the game with you guys, so thank you so much for making time for this. I know we all had to squeeze in some time. We were going to do this show last week, but the episode had some bugs in the system, and a lot of us didn't even get to play it until the end of last week. But we did get through it. Hopefully, Alex got through it. You never know. He's not going to tell us until episode 100. But, so the episode was called Long Live the Lich. This was the 3rd episode in season 4 of the Living World. And so I want to kind of go through the instances, kind of go through the story in order. Starts... Was that?
I was going to say, we probably should say right off, the title's a little misleading of this episode, isn't it?
We don't have any confirmation of anything 100%.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He could still be out there somewhere.
He could still be out there somewhere.
So the first instance, we start out with Gorik's trial. Gorik being the Asura that we met last episode, who is studying the Scarab Plague. And he refers to it as the pestilence. He's like, we don't want to call it a plague and freak people out. It's the pestilence.
Pestilence.
We don't think it's so
pestilence.
funny.
Because nobody could figure out the difference between a plague and a pestilence.
No.
Let's name it after one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse instead. That'll calm everybody down.
Well, you know what's funny is somebody mentioned Scarab Plague in that like one of the delegates or something. And he says it's not really a plague; it's more of a pestilence. Whatever the difference is between those two.
Yeah,
that's like me getting confused. I'm like, well, it's the plague. They're scarabs, not beetles. Wait a minute.
Right. Yeah.
Scarabs or beetles. Scarabs. It's just a different word for the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool.
Dude's on trial. He put a bug under his skin.
Yeah.
How does anybody else creeped out by that?
Yeah.
He said he put one of the scarabs under his skin to see what it would do.
And I was like, well, I mean, it's a bit. Yeah, it was weird. I was like, I mean, I guess the Azurans are kind of, well, they're scientists, aren't there? And there's a story, or so the story goes, about the guy who came up with the first vaccination for smallpox. That he infected his assistant with cowpox, and then when he got over that and they tried to give him smallpox, it failed. So I think there's actually that historical basing in where they practice on themselves and their assistants just to kind of see what happens and for the greater good kind of thing. And I guess it kind of explores it a little bit later in the story as well. But I think in terms of like the trial itself, it gives him a very good kind of precedent to stand on, where he's like, well, it's a bit of a plague, but I've got one in me, and I'm going to find out what happens. And
nothing happens. I just have a bug under my skin. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. Well, he finds out that the Scarab Plague only affects humans.
Yeah, that is very weird.
Which is the first that we've heard of that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I guess it kind of makes sense because Norn, Char, Azura, and Sylvari, I can't really see where any of those would have had interaction with Joko prior to this event. I mean, the Char possibly during the time that they invaded, or they tried to invade Or, but if I get my timelines right, Joko was still way down in Alona at that point. So it kind of makes sense that this plague that he's engineered, it would only affect humans. Although there could be the argument there that why doesn't it affect Norns? Because Norns are essentially just taller humans, but whatever.
Well, the reason is that he gets the plague that Joko has. He actually sources from the original plague, or pestilence.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
He didn't really design it himself necessarily. He just sort of dug up the old information and recreated, or actually, I guess the Inquest recreated it for him and he stole it.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, that would certainly explain why it doesn't affect any of the other races. That is this plague originally engineered to affect humans, and
yeah, still no information on who or what engineered the original plague, unless it was a natural thing, which doesn't really sound like it was necessarily.
Unless, I guess, I don't know. Maybe it turns out that it was Abaddon and the Marganites in some kind of past event during the time Abaddon was imprisoned in Torment. Is it Torment? You know the bit I mean. You know where you find him at the end of Nightfall. So if it's possible that Abaddon engineered it during his imprisonment but somehow managed to release it into Alona.
That's a neat theory.
Theory crafting. But I also thought it was interesting that he gives you the option of saying, just don't mention the plague, just say that it's something a little bit weird and we're investigating, and you can either go along with him, or you can just be like, plague everywhere.
Okay, so yeah, I forgot there was dialogue options there, because I did everything dignified because my character is on the dignified side. So you could be dignified, or you could be the rage, and just be like, let him go.
There's a mixture between the two as well. So there's an achievement for doing all dignified, all rage, or whatever that is, and then there's a mixture between the two. I have to go back and do the mixture one yet myself, but apparently there's two other choices where you mix between both of them.
Okay.
That gives you some different dialogue options, so that's kind of interesting.
Nice.
I think the first time I chose was I think I was playing it through with some friends, so we chose a couple of options and just kind of wound our way through it. But yeah, it's interesting. It was I kind of like those dialogue only instances, certainly at the beginning, and then
it's a good setup for the episode. But that first story instance still had combat in it. It started.
Oh, it did towards the end.
It started out with the trial. We free Gorick. We go to the docks and meet Farron, who is offering aid to the people of Amnoon, which they seem kind of reluctant to accept it, but it's like he's trying to show like, hey, Tyria cares about Alona. So it seems like there's still, even though the champion of Tyria came in and basically purged the desert of Balthazar, even though we still got the Joko and Kralkatorrik problem, there's still kind of like Tyria and Alona are still a little bit like diplomatically iffy with each other. But Farron was there, and I loved seeing Farron. I think all the voice acting was great in this episode, and he's offering aid, and he's like, another ship is coming in, and he says, "I'll meet you at the dock." But
and that's plague ships.
Everybody in the ship got plagued.
Well, before we get there, I thought there was a nice touch with Blish.
Yes.
So they turn Blish off and they crate him up, and when they wake him up, when they turn him back on, he screams and freaks out because he was sort of captured in darkness or whatever the case was. And what I thought was really interesting about that, or what I picked up from that, was I think a lot of people, myself included, in episode 2 thought that Timey really sympathizes with Blish, and she says that, you know, he's beautiful and he doesn't have to worry about the frailties of life and the body and so forth. And I think what was really interesting about him being turned off, freaking out, and talking about the cold darkness is that it's not all rainbows and sunshine for Blish being a golem. Yes, he doesn't have to worry about plagues and pestilence and his body being torn apart necessarily, but there are downsides to being put into a golem only.
Yeah, because Timey's been considering it in past instances, hasn't she?
Well, the end of last episode was when she was saying, like Ink said, that, oh, he's beautiful and he's perfect, and you got that sense that she was thinking about it, like, because, you know, she doesn't like the frailties of her own body. So I actually didn't make that connection, Inks. That's a lot deeper than I looked at the... I liked his reaction of being in the darkness, like that scream he did, like, oh my god, that like give me shivers. I was like, holy crap. And like that's like my worst fear, is like that being in the darkness and nothingness and not knowing, having no sense of time or anything. And he was, you know, you got the sense through the voice acting from Blish, you know, that how horrible that was. And even though I don't think we saw a direct reaction from Timey, I think you're absolutely right that the player is supposed to get that sense of, okay, hopefully she, and maybe for Timey herself, you know, she'll think like, well, it's not maybe the best thing. It's not like this will solve all my problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So we go to the docks, and the ship pulls in, and we get a cutscene. The first of 3 cutscenes in this episode, and the cutscenes were phenomenal. Oh my god! So you see the like people, like almost like zombies, like they come off the ship, and then you see the scarabs just like burst out of them and consume all the people who were there to greet them, except us, Farron, and the head of who was there. I forget the term, whatever she's called, a constable or something.
Yeah.
And so everybody that was there, who was like a bystander, got absorbed by the plague, and then we have to fight them because they die, and then Joko's like effigy or something. It's not actually Joko, but it's like this giant avatar of him that he's controlling and talking through.
Yeah, he turns up, and then he brings in a couple of mates to there's like a couple of his priests that turn up that you have to fight as well, and
there's one of them. Yeah,
is one of them or 2 of them?
Which might be a callback to Guild Wars 1. I didn't recognize the name personally.
I think it might have been, yeah.
Somebody the Inexorable or something.
I don't recognize it.
It's an interesting little fight.
Yeah. Okay, when they did the mechanic of the enemies jumped into the air off the boat, was that new tech? Because I don't remember ever seeing that before.
It looks cool.
It looked really cool.
I don't think models have ever had that that kind of mobility before. Because even back when the game launched, models had trouble running properly. It just looked like they'd move faster, but their running would be the same speed, but their walking would just be like the same animation but slowed down. So they've obviously done. I saw a bunch of stuff on Reddit saying that maybe there'd been some like motion capture done, or
yeah, they have mocap now.
That kind of thing.
Motion capture happening.
Yeah.
And it's the stuff they're doing with it is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have this fight. There's new mechanics. There's new like visuals. I thought it was a very interesting fight because he raises all the people, and then you fight his like commander that he pulls up, and then is there another fight? I forget, but you have to that's the first no, at the docks actually was the first time where you take your mount and his going back to the last scene, his marshmallow mites get loose.
Mites.
Yeah,
it was so great.
My
and
marshmallow
mites. And so they're all over the ground, and then they say, oh, you can either jump on them or run them over with your mount. So like I just got on my raptor and just ran around until they were all dead.
Me too.
And so then you have to do the same thing in the next scene with the scarabs. And so you're running around, and all the scarabs are like, contain the plague. And the whole time, so I'm playing this as a human, knowing that the scarab plague affects humans. So the whole time I'm doing this little battle at the docks, I'm like, am I getting infected? How am I not getting infected? Because these people on the shore got instantly turned. As soon as those scarabs touched them, they just, like, died.
Yeah.
So I was like, at that point, we know now why, but at that point I was like, am I immune somehow? Like, what's going on? But I was, like, scared. I was like, what's going to happen?
It's like, which I guess we'll just discuss that a bit later on. But yeah, it turns out you're immune for reasons that happened in Path of Fire.
I didn't play it on a human. I played it on Sylvari. You'll have to explain why later you're immune.
Did they not explain that at all? If you don't play it on a human, why you're immune as a human?
If they did,
it's when you're talking to the queens, the primeval queens in the tomb. Basically, it's because we died.
Oh, because you're touched. Okay.
Because we died.
We died
came back to life, and so we have a. They said we have a like a scent, a musk. I think is the word they used. We have a musk on us, so the scarabs can tell that we've died, and they know that they can't affect us as a human. So I don't know if they did explain for other races. So I thought that was so cool because we ended the first instance wondering. Taimi even has, I think, exclusive dialogue. If you're a human, she even says, "It's a good thing you didn't get infected, Commander."
Right.
If you're a human. So I was like, good thing. And luckily...
You're right, Taimi. What a good thing.
What a good thing,
Taimi. Good. So,
it would have been inconvenient if the player character had died permanently at this point in proceedings.
Just turn into a zombie.
Yeah.
So we end that instance and we go to some open world bits. Lots and lots of voice dialogue in the open world as they've done before, which is super nice. Lots of it is, so much of it is voiced, which is so nice. I know it definitely, increases my immersion when, even in the open world, when you're talking to a static NPC and there's people with their mounts jumping on top of you while you're trying to, you can't even read the speech bubbles because there's other people on top of you. So that's not ideal. But, I just, at this point, I'm just kind of like, there's going to be people on mounts and giant char on top of me. I've just kind of accepted it.
Let's deal with it.
And ambient dialogue of other NPCs in the area in the background. At this point, I'm like, it could be better, but it's never anything, so super critical that it's,
Yeah. But, so the open world bit was kind of cool. And you go back and see the queen... the queens again, because they were the if I remember correctly, they were the two ruling monarchs when Alona was destroyed by the original Scarab Plague, weren't they? Yeah, and so obviously they've got a very heavily vested interest in what's going on, even though we sort of whopped their butts a bit in Path of Fire, but now they're all kind of cool. It does feel a little bit Lord of the Ringsy. Where you go and talk to the king and you recruit an undead army.
It's so Battle of Five Armies, man.
I know. I was like, I'm sure I've seen this somewhere before. 5 different armies,
groups that come through that portal at the end.
I know.
This is so... It's great, though, because you recruit the ghosts, basically the people, which I think is so cool. The people who were originally killed by the Scarab Plague come back to fight Joko's army, which is so cool.
Right.
Led by those queens. You have Bram and who's Bram? Bram just recruits some Norn. I forget.
I think
I'm blanking.
He just turns up with some people. I think
Bram turns up with some people. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna join the fight."
These are my guys.
Continuing to redeem Bram and trying to make Bram your buddy. You go through the final instance with him. You have Rox recruits the Omicron.
Yeah,
which
is cool.
So cool, and she's kind of taking charge. She's obviously not a leader of them, but they trust her. They're gonna fight by her side. She rallies them to fight with us, which is really, really cool. They're putting Rox in that more important role, just a little bit. They're not forcing her into your phases. Look at Rox, isn't she awesome? But through the Omicron and her relationship with them, they're kind of giving her a little bit more importance. The Omicron came to our aid because of Rox. She convinced them, and she was leading that group, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah. I also like the fact that the Omicron weren't a one-shot. that was it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I've vocalized this before, and we will probably get onto it a little bit later when we discuss Joko, or at least I will, because I have my soapbox ready. That when the Omnicon came up, there's a really cool idea of these kind of shamans that the Char turned into, and I was like, please don't just let them be a one-off kind of, we're just going to stay on our little bit of territory and you can go off and do the rest of it. It's really, really cool that they brought, that they're actually kind of calling back to previous episodes, and all these different factions get more input as the living world progresses, which I think was for me was something was missing from season 3. Like a whole bunch of season 3 happened, and then Krakatorik woke up.
We never heard from any of them again.
Yeah. I'm even trying to remember who was in season 3. I don't even really think we got introduced to kind of that many new bits and new communities in season 3, but the ones that we did
back to places and get introduced to a lot of brand new ones, like Omicron.
But they didn't really get pulled forward into Path of Fire. It was just sort of like a name check thing to say that they were there and that kind of thing. But yeah, I was really, really glad to see the Omicron there. And
Rox had one frustrating, one very good line is that she says, and this was apparent in episode 2 as well, but, she said, you say something to her about the Omicron being good fighters or warriors or something, and she says, yes, they are amazing warriors, but they don't let fighting define who they are.
Yeah.
Whereas the regular Char, fighting literally defines who they are in their society. And the Omicron are, and they've already sort of said this in episode 2, but they re-allude to it again in episode 3, and that's something that Rox really resonates with the Omicron. And I think it's pretty obvious to most people that she's going to be with them from now on until we need her for something.
Yeah.
Like she's sort of staying there with them, right? Becoming part of their society in some ways. The other thing is, she does mention at the very end about one of the seers or elders or something, I forget what she calls them, says, he told me the most profound thing the other day. And then she just cuts herself off. Yeah. Oh, but you don't have time for that.
You don't have time for that.
I've got plenty of time. Like, I'm wondering if they'll revisit that again. They probably will, I would think. But it's like, don't do that. Stop doing that. Just finish your sentence. Tell me what you were going to say.
Yeah. Why even mention that if you're not gonna? It's like, well, now you have to tell us.
Yeah.
That would have been a great line for the commander. Well, now you have to tell me. Because you do that, right? Someone's like, oh my god, the coolest thing happened. Oh, but you don't have time. It's like, well, no, now you have to tell me.
You don't really care. You don't want to hear about it.
But yeah, I agree. It's like, what? Come on.
Yeah.
But she's learned. That kind of proves that she's learning from them. She's listening to them. She's becoming a part of their society and getting just as much from them as they're getting from her.
Yeah.
So, really, really cool.
It's really nice that she's getting a lot more characterization now. Because before, to me, she was always that one that was there to sort of have a bit of a crush on Bram, and then turn into like a little sister kind of relationship. And she to me, she was always one of those characters that was defined by
the other characters.
She was defined by the relationship that other characters had with her. But now, even though she's not one of my favorite characters, she's cool, but I'll never, she won't make my top 10 list or whatever. But for the first time, she's actually got a more of a this is who I am kind of about her.
Yeah.
With her persona.
I kind of like Rox quite a bit, but then again, we haven't had a whole lot of Rox to like or dislike. It's just now in season 4 that we're really kind of coming back to her character and seeing that develop,
Yeah.
So we learn that we're immune from the plague, and we meet with Taimi and Blish, who they say we have to. You say I've raised an army, but we have to get them there, and it's going to take us way too long to actually march the army to Joko's fortress. So they actually were experimenting because they're Asura, and that's what they do. And I love it. I love that they just they keep hard to the Asura. They're inventors. They have their technology. They're always learning. They're always inventing, and they're always thinking that other species are like less than them. Because Agoric has a lot of lines that are just kind of like, you know, oh, they don't understand. You know, they don't understand the important work I'm doing. And I love that. I love that they keep that with the Asura, because that's who they are. That's what kind of defines their race. But they have been experimenting with the portal technology that Joko was using to make to open up these rifts to let his army out across Syria. So they basically took that technology, and they are trying to refine it so that we can send the armies through that portal. And so we go through first. Actually, no, Blish's arm goes through first.
That's right, yeah, because you pick it up at the end.
Which is great, because he's just kind of like, okay, the rift is open. Oops. Oh, my arm went through.
Yeah, there goes my arm.
There goes my arm. Can you pick that up for me if you find it, Commander? So we go through, and we're kind of doing like, they're like, how about you go through and scout, because we don't really know what we're going to see on the other side.
And as it turns out, we didn't see a lot for 2 or 3 days.
For you.
Hey, for me.
For me, I didn't have that problem.
For all of us scrubs on EU, we didn't see a lot until last Saturday, I think.
I waited and started late when I knew it was working.
Yeah.
The rest of you suckers got to sit in there.
Oh yeah, I didn't sit and like bash my head against disconnects. I played the first instance, and then everybody said, "Oh, second instance on, you can't do." So I just waited until Thursday.
Yeah, that's fine. So. Yeah, but they got up and running, and
yeah.
And I'm going to preface this now, because as interesting as was it 4 arms and 4 warns, or the other way around? As interesting and as a mission thing as it was, there is nothing I hate more in video games than arbitrary stealth missions. It's like I love games like Deus Ex and Human Evolution, but I don't do the stealth bits. I get given a gun and I'm like, let's go and kill stuff. Like if I want to play stealth, I will play like a full-on stealth game. I'll go and play Dishonored, or I'll go and play Thief 2. What I don't want to do is to log into an MMO and be like, here's where you have to try and be stealthy. See all of these achievements that you need. I'm just like, no, come on. I mean, to be fair, it's a cool mechanic, and some of the abilities that we're going to talk about are really interesting. But I was 10 minutes in, and I was like, you know what? I just want to hit things now. It's like, no, but you can catch bees in a jar and make sure that you use this mechanic to get an achievement, and and you can do this.
10 minutes. Just like, I lasted 45 before I was like, I'm done with this, man.
Really?
I used it the whole time, but it took me I don't play a lot of those stealth games, so it was a very slow process for me. And at one point, and I have to go back and do it again, but at one point it's like, oh no, don't let Canuck help you, because you'll lose an achievement. I'm like, yeah, Canuck, you go for it. I'm gonna be over here doing whatever.
Also, that achievement, by the way, the third point isn't even on the damn map. When you come in, you have to go and uncover that bit of the map yourself. So there's the achievement where you have to plant the 2 bombs. You have to plant the bombs before Canuck gets there to get the achievement. I planted 2, and I think I've done it, because there's none of the run map. But it turns out you have to go a little bit further north and uncover another section of the map where Canuck runs off to start with, to plant the final one to get the achievement.
So he just ran off the map and didn't tell you.
Yeah, I was somewhat irked by that, because I've done it 2 or 3 times. I was like, this achievement's bugged. I was like, no.
The first time I played through, I don't even pay attention to achievements. Because I don't want, I don't want to get annoyed that I did or didn't get an achievement, my first time through. But yeah, I'll have to go back at some point and do that. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of stealth stuff either. And the one thing I do appreciate about the stealth mission is I love that they gave you 1 skill at a time. They let you learn that skill, and then they introduced another one. They let you learn it, and then they introduced another one. They didn't give you this bar of 10 new skills and go, all right, here you go, have fun. And you're just like, I don't know what to use where. So I extremely appreciate that aspect of it, that I was able to learn the skills one by one. It did make it a little bit slow. I heard that there was skills that if you didn't go to the right area of the map, that you didn't even get the skill. Like, I got the skill with the micro golems to convert the turrets. There were people in my chat saying, I never even got that. I didn't know that was a thing.
I don't think I got that one.
No?
Was that skill 5?
No, I think it was utility. I could be wrong. I forget. But yeah, there were people who said I didn't even get it.
Yeah, I forget how you get the micro golems.
You just have to wander. Maybe you wander around until you find the turrets, and if you find a turret, it was skill 5. Sorry, if you find a turret, then it gives you that skill, which makes sense. And Blish is like reporting into you because he can communicate with you. So he's saying like, oh, hey, there's a turret here. I'm going to activate something, or I'm going to tell you something on my arm that can deal with that.
Oh, by the way,
rather than
I forgot to tell you, my arm has micro golems.
By the way, you can teleport. By the way, you're a mesmer now.
That dialogue was pretty funny.
That was the one that would have been useful earlier.
Yeah. To be fair, the teleport one the teleport skill is the super useful one. I was like.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I kept forgetting to use it. And then you can turn into a tree so that they can't see you. And they actually have dialogue that says, was that tree there before? And there's a couple different lines. And I was like,
it's a tree.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant.
I felt like it slowed, for me anyway, and this is probably not true for every player, but for me it slowed the story down a little more than I would like to have had it slowed down. But at the same time, there was a lot of cute dialogue in there. Blish is saying, oh, you have this skill, oh, you have that skill, and Timmy would chime in and say, look, if you have a teleporter, you should just tell us you have a like she would.
Oh, yeah.
In this episode, I thought she took on, and you guys know I'm not the biggest Timmy fan, but in this episode, she took on a slightly more interesting role where she was sort of the parent to Blish and Gorick. You know? She was apologetic to the commander, like, oh, Gorick got put in jail. And then after he gets out of jail, she's like, maybe you shouldn't go around blabbing about pestilence to people. And Gorick's like, whatever.
Whatever.
You're right.
So she was a little bit parenty because she's the leader of her own little crew now. And
plus,
I kind of like that side of her.
Yeah. Ooh, something Inks likes about Timmy.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, like
your mic muted when you said it. Whatever.
Oh, thank God. I agree with Inks about Timmy on this episode. I actually thought she was all right for a change. That the role that she had in this episode, it wasn't just a talking head. She actually had a little bit more personality, and
the last 2 episodes, they've started to change her character. Just enough. She still says some things that are like, oh, God. But other times, or most of the time, for me, she's a lot more bearable. And I like that because we broke the glass on Scruffy in episode 1, she now rides around at Scruffy without the glass on, which I thought was kind of cool.
She has danger of suffocation. She knows when that glass is on there, if she's totally encased, then she has the possibility of being suffocated again.
That's true, yeah.
It's so cool.
Correct.
She's getting bigger and bigger, man. She's growing.
She is growing from a child to an adult.
She is now the smallest size Azura that you can be as a playable character. I think
larger.
Is she larger than the smallest one now?
Just a tiny bit, yeah.
Oh wow.
Because all my Asura are as small as they can be. Tiny's a little bit.
Okay.
Wow. She used to be so little in season 2. She was so.
She was tiny,
like
wasn't she?
She was a mini pet, basically. In season 2.
Mini pet. Yeah.
But I think with her being, like you said, kind of a mom, kind of a mediator between Blish and Gorick, because she's had however many game years it's been. She's had years of communicating with us and learning how we communicate. as the commander and hanging out with all of these other races for Dragon's Watch, that I think she kind of has a little bit more of a rapport with the different races and how we as the commander communicate with her. So I think that attributes to her experience with hanging out with us, attributes to how she is kind of being that go-between. She may be kind of realizing Asura can be a little harsh, so I'm gonna kind of try and lessen the blow a little bit. So yeah. Great character development of all of the characters, especially Bramrox and Timey. In this entire season, they've done a really good job of tweaking the characters' personalities to be more likable across the board, slowly over the episodes. Really, really well done.
Yeah, no, yeah. This season especially has been good for what they call Dragon's Watch character development, and I'm actually kind of happy.
It actually excites me a little bit for what they're going to do with Casimir and Marjorie when they re-enter the story.
Yeah, I would love more development on them.
Are they on a break at the moment? I can't remember. Are they?
No, not technically. I mean, things are not great between them, but they're not broken up either. They're spending a lot of quality time together watching Krakatorik.
Yeah, we haven't heard from them in a while.
No, yeah, we haven't heard from him in 2 episodes, I think, now. Which I assume I think next episode is probably going to be back to at least some with them. But I'm interested to see what they do with that, with their characters and their relationship and so forth, because I feel like in Heart of Thorns and in season 3, I feel like they sort of got off track with both of the characters actually quite a bit. And because of the character development we've seen so far, I'm excited to see what they do with those two characters.
Yeah, me too. Because I love them. They're 2 of my favorite characters. So, but I know you can't focus on every character every episode. That's just ridiculous because they have such a huge cast now. They did bring back Ritlock, though.
They did bring him back for a bit.
To this instance, Ritlock made an appearance. He came through the rift with rocks, and he is in. He's fighting Joko.
Yeah.
A little bit of Canuck time, which people love.
Canuck and his bombs.
Very
heavily reinforcing the fact that Canuck loves explosives.
Oh man, the explosive bit in the story was pretty funny.
And this vine wall technology that he just pulled out of his Sylvari butt. I was where has this vine wall technology been? This would have been helpful in
the last
many
3
situations.
years, man.
Yeah, the Pale Tree doesn't seem to have any of this technology, but Canuck has it.
Canuck does, yeah.
But no, Canuck has continued to be awesome. He hasn't his character hasn't improved. It hasn't unimproved. He's just cool. Just straight cool across the board. And his voice actor is amazing. His voice is just the lines are delivered so well, and he's written well, and he's got that bit of snark, that humor.
Well, it is what's his name? John DiMaggio, isn't it? His voice actor.
Yeah, I think so.
Bender from Futurama.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
I love Canuck.
I continue to keep the sense of Canuck is on our team completely, but at the same time, he's doing his own thing. At the same time. And they write it brilliantly. It's great.
Not only that, but Canuck has sort of a friendly ribbing with most of the characters of Dragon's Watch as well. Him and Ritlock have their own sort of jokey friendship, and in this episode he sort of ribs Bram a little bit, and he sort of annoys the group as a whole a little bit. So I don't know, I think he's that member who he's a little bit sarcastic with everybody, but they love him for it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's kind of great that I guess this kind of bit freedom that they're giving him now, it's kind of reinforced by the story, because after because Anise has released him from servitude in
it was last season
in Head of the Snake, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then Demi took over for all of 35 seconds. It was Demi Beetlestone, wasn't it? Who took it?
Demi died, dear. Demi died.
No.
Oh, it was
I'm blanking on her name, but yeah, it was
Demi's friend.
It was someone who was obviously very important to the storyline.
She's one of the Wii's.
Wasn't she the one that sort of sold us out to somebody and then
Valette.
There we go.
Valette.
Thank you, Rancor.
That's what it was.
Rancor Chiron wins a shiny gold star.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Canuck's free to help us and still be his snarky stuff because he's enjoying being free. He's enjoying being free and not being under anyone. So, but he's still a good guy and wants to help us. But he's gonna still do his own thing.
He's pretty great.
He's great.
And overall, like that story instance did have some really interesting stuff, and you could kind of wander around the seeing what the Awakened were doing without aggroing everything, and so you don't have to run past.
Oh my god, I aggroed everything, dude.
Mate.
Oh, those trebuchets were pissing me off.
Oh, I saw that. I dropped into your stream last week, and you were getting hammered by the trebuchets.
You could be disguised as a tree behind a wall, and they would still like target you and throw the goo at you. I was just like, how do you get away from these trebuchets? Now, I was doing a little bit. I got a little bit too into trying to do the stealth thing. I wanted to make it work. And I just ended up going into places where I shouldn't go. Now, eventually, you blow up the trebuchets with Canuck's bombs. So, but I didn't have the bombs yet. I was like trying to destroy them either with stealth or like at one point I just went out of stealth and I was like, why am I still stealthing? I just want to kill everything with I have a sword. Why am I not using it? So I go and like the trebuchets, they have way too much health. You can't destroy them with just your sword. So I was just like, well.
The bombs are a little bit buggy actually as well. You can't plant the trebuchet or they don't explode. You have to plant them just to the side as well, which I thought was really weird.
There was no range on the bombs whatsoever. It had to be dropped like right next to you. I would teleport in, immediately become a tree, put down the bomb, and then teleport out. That was my strategy for the bombs, and it worked. It worked. So. But at the end of the instance, we rally the 5 armies. They all eventually come through the rift, and they have dialogue. Lord Farron comes through. He's wearing his like ornate armor. It's so great. It's actually one of the outfits.
It's available in every good gem store in your area.
Farron has all
he
the
loses
gems.
that armor
rich,
real quick though.
He does.
Yes, he does. Yes, he
Lord
does.
Farron just can't hold on to armor very long.
He gets his ass kicked.
He does. We tell him, but he listens to us, but he doesn't listen to us because we address the 5 armies at the end of the second instance, and we tell them, okay, you guys are going to the front line. You guys are going here around. She specifically says, Farron and your crew, because you're human, you need to protect our supply lines. And she's like, it's not, Commander's saying this is not like grunt work. I'm not giving you busy work. This is important because without our supply lines, we go down, which is true in war. So it actually is a very important job. And he kind of says, he's like, all right, Commander, But in the next open world segment, we learn that he
did not do what he was supposed to.
He didn't. No, he didn't stay behind. I think one of the armies was in trouble. I forget the exact wording of what exactly happened, but one of the armies like needed supplies, or one of the supply lines was going down, but it was on the front line where he wasn't supposed to go, and he was like, my countrymen needed me, so he went in and apparently didn't get, because like if you get infected by the plague as a human, you just die instantly. Right, so I'm assuming he didn't get himself infected. It's not like he's going to burst out and into beetles sometime in the future. But yeah, we see a broken and hurt Farron. He's all wrapped up like Logan was in Head of the Snake, and he's like on the ground in the open world, which is great.
It was. I mean, Farron's been in my story since the very beginning, because my main is a human noble, and so he's like, I think the first time you ever meet him, he throws a party for you in your home instance, and you're like, oh, Farron, great to see you. Thanks for coming. And it's come on because I don't particularly like him. I think he's a little bit annoying and a little bit shoehorned in. But it's kind of cool that they're running with that whole Swordmaster Farron thing that was like completely over the top in Heart of Thorns, and they're just going with it. And by this point, I'm just like, you know what? It's ridiculous. So just keep going with it. Actually, I mean, like all of the stuff since Joko's got involved has been fairly odd anyway. And you know what with Joko's unraveling sanity as he starts doing dances and directing the theatrics and all that kind of thing. So to me, like Farron now just sort of fits into the overall mood of sort of what's going on with Joko. It's like, so Farron's here being weird, Joko's here being weird. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Just go. You'll get along. You'll get along fine. You'll have fun.
I don't necessarily have a problem with Farron's character. He is full of sort of false. He's an exaggerator for sure about how much he helps or how much he's a part of the commander's story. Even if you're not human, even as a Sylvari, he's very much like, remember all that stuff we did in Path of Fire together? And it's like, I haven't played Path of Fire in a while. No, I don't remember anything.
That was a year ago, man.
But at the same time, Farron is willing to stand on the front lines and actually fight, regardless of his own safety. So he might exaggerate his exploits, but he is actually willing to put himself in harm's way to do the right thing or to do the good thing. I think he's a little bit redeeming in that way. He always seems to lose his clothes, regardless of what he does. Yeah. So I guess that's the in-joke, right?
I definitely got that sense this episode, too. That he truly wanted to help. He wasn't doing it for glory or for honor or for, namesake. Like, he was like, I truly want to help. Because I'm always kind of standing on the sidelines. Yeah, he's like, put me forward, Commander. I'm ready. I want to help. And he was there with the aid for Amnoon. So I definitely got that sense from him. It redeemed him a little bit, I hope, in the eyes of people who weren't sure about him. He's not my favorite character, but I love the character. Like, whenever he shows up, I'm like, let's see what Farron's gonna say today. What quips is he gonna have? So I'm excited to see the character. Even though he's not my favorite, it's an odd relationship.
But then he's there, and then
we help around Amnoon. Okay, this is something in the open world instance before we get to the final instance. I really enjoyed how they did the open world bit because they've done it different ways over the past season and a half. And sometimes, like, it used to be you have to go and complete every single heart, which is a drag.
Yeah, no more hearts, thank God.
They've done it where you don't do any hearts. You have to simply go and, like, slaughter White Mantle. Like, they've done it a lot of different ways. I loved how they did this episode because what they did, you had to go around to a bunch, I don't know if it was all, but a bunch of the hearts.
Most of them,
You didn't have to complete them, but you had to do, like, one or two tasks for the heart, but there was story. There was voice dialogue. You would go and you would talk to an NPC. The NPC would actually, like, explain to you as part of your main story what's going on, what you have to do to help them. But that was the heart quest. So it was like, to me, it felt like it gave a lot of meaning and story to the heart quest. It was like, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I understood why I was helping this person who had a heart over their head.
Yeah, I mean, in the first one that I went to was the farm area, and that was
brutal.
It was cool. Like
no, I mean the dialogue was brutal there.
Yeah, I know.
First of all, the farm area has the best feature of the entire episode. It has the Joko pooping statue. So, yeah. He's just squatting down. It's like, why would you commission a statue of that? But there you go. He marks the front of the statue of him just, having a little
as you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that one, like, it was really interesting because it starts off with, we've got infected, what was it? We've got infected crops, wasn't it? And we need you to go and put
starving.
Yeah, and it's like, it looks like Scarab Plague. Such and such said they would, such and such his wife his wife had died of the Scarab Plague, wasn't it?
That was brutal. That whole little
part. That dialogue was great.
And
that was dark.
And then it turns out that what was it? It was the husband who infected the doctor, and then did he? Because his wife didn't die from the Scarab Plague, did she? Didn't she die of something else?
I don't remember what she died from, but she's there dead in his bed.
Yeah, and I was like,
Joko says to him, "Look, you do these things, and I'll reawaken her."
Yeah.
And then hey, you'll be back. Even forget for a moment that she's all rotting and whatever in the bed, but I'll wake her up and everything will be great again. So of course he does it. He fails miserably at it because the doctor sort of interferes with his plans, and then the doctor's talking at you through the door. And again, great dialogue, really. But her death scene is like she's through the door and she's going,
she dies right there while she's talking to you.
I'm just like, rip her.
Yeah.
But that was great. I think that was my favorite part of the story. Just that little bit, because to me that was the best part. That was the best bit of writing that I've seen in Guild Wars 2 in a long, long time. That little bit there, because it's nuanced, there's twists, and then it's all morally ambiguous as well. There's no out and out villain in that situation, is there? Because half the time we're going, Joko's a bad guy. He's doing
he was
plague and stuff.
A bad guy in that one.
yeah, he has to stop. But when it comes to the people, it's like the guy's trying to, Joko killed this guy's wife. The guy's trying to get his wife back, who infected the guy, and then it's all.
It was its own contained little soap opera episode that ended in a lot of death.
His taunts were brutal. Like the writing on the taunts was
oh my god.
Maybe I'll awaken her and then kill her again, and then waken her again, and have a little fun and make you watch, and then kill her again.
It was dark, which is great, which I love.
He's telling him all these terrible things he's going to do in order to make him watch and endure at the same time, and it was great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was.
Yeah. It was great, and then there was the next part, which was you had to go and talk to Goric, didn't you? And
the Goric is where you get the roller beetle. I forget if you have to talk to him as part of the story, but
you're told to talk to him, but I don't think you don't need the roller story.
Right.
But he's like, look what happened to, I call him Peachy. And they just like...
Oh, yeah, because the scarab that he put under his arm, he took it out, and it had grown. And it was sitting there and shivering. Because it was scared or cold or whatever. And so then he tells you, he basically unlocks the beetle collection. And you go through the steps of unlocking it, and you have to...
Which, to be fair, is a phenomenally badly put together collection. There's all I want is that little, where it says in the usual achievements tab, it says you're not sure where you have to go, and you can click on the little compass and it shows you roughly where you have to go. None of that. It's just
the hint when you hover over it and it says hint of where to go, it's not a hint, it tells you. It's this one's in the bayou. This one's in up north. This one's over here. Go and kill the Mark II Golem. The hints aren't hints, they just tell you where to go.
Right.
Alex wants an actual compass that gives him the waypoint, so you just click
I don't
remember where the Mark II Golem is.
I want waypoints at every quest step and points of interest. No, it was the first part of it, the secret cache bit. And I was like, go up here, and I was wandering around. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking for. Especially because it circles on the map near where the secret caches are, and I'm wandering around this area going.
They weren't hard to find at all.
I think they were a little bit randomized as well.
Oh, really?
I think the locations they're all in that area, right? But I think the locations are.
No, because if you go to the wiki, because I did use the wiki as a guide, like it's circled.
I used Dolphy's guide as well.
This is exactly where it is.
I didn't use any guides. I just ran around.
But yeah, it was easy. It's easy even if you don't use a guide. Like it tells you go here, and then the yellow text that you can interact with something is on it, and it's not like they're on top of a cliff that you would never go to otherwise. Like they're pretty out in the open, so it's not that bad.
It was probably, in fairness, it was probably just me trying to get through the story instance at like midnight on a Wednesday or something. Going, I've got to do this before I go to work in the morning. But yeah, I mean, like the collection itself, I overall I thought it was quite nice. I've not finished it yet. I'm still on the saddle, I think, or the last one, and I like the fact that it doesn't cost 250 gold to unlock, but I do like the fact that it does take you out and about a little bit, even though like stuff like the golem and the ley line anomaly is somewhat arbitrary, and that you have to do that they only appear every couple of hours. But I guess because it's all linked to like Inquest technology and how they're kind of combining the ley line stuff with their technology, I guess that kind of works there.
Yeah. I think they should do more of that. Have you go back to the old world?
Yeah, the old
content. I think we should have done like the elemental, anything that was related to like a Surin technology. They should have had us go back to any excuse to get people back into Tyria and the older maps, which is what it did. I think that was brilliant.
And Hypnotic's right. I'm stubborn. I refuse to use Dolphy or anybody's guide. Figure it out. Tells you where to go. It's
it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But let's get to the final instance. The final instance, amazing. We start. It's called Be My Guest, and we are infiltrating Joko's fortress. And we're going. We start outside, and we're all concerned about. There's these two towers. There's these two towers.
What two towers?
I don't know if ArenaNet realize how lawsuit happy Christopher Tolkien is, because like he's coming for you.
Well, the two towers don't last long because we were very concerned because they're like there's these two towers that are just going to destroy us as we go through. And as soon as you go in, we're like, what are we going to do about the towers? And as you say that, it's perfect timing. The towers explode, and Kanak's like, what about them? I lost it. That was like the greatest moment. It was so brilliant.
Can Kanak's vines melt Joko's towers?
Kanak's got all kinds of hidden technology, man. He probably has
blew the towers up with bombs.
Yeah, he blew them. He somehow stealthed himself in there, and who knows? He's got Sylvari teleporter technology, and teleported his bombs in there, and they blew up, and it was just, oh my god, it was the greatest moment. But you see Bram is there, and you see Ritlock is there, and Rox is there, and they're all there with their armies, and they're fighting the Awakened as you run up, to the door. And you're like, we got to get past this door. And of course, Kanak comes up with his bombs, and he's setting his bombs. The same from episode 1, where he like takes a while at the door. We're waiting for him to blow up a door. It's the same situation, and we're sitting there, and we're fighting the mobs and keeping the mobs off of him. And then and there's wonderful dialogue, witty dialogue between the characters while that's all going on, and
whistling and taking his time.
Yeah, and he's just like da, 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 and then he joins the fight, and we're like, finish the bomb. What are you doing? Why are you fighting? Oh, I finished the bomb long time ago. I got bored. I'm gonna fight with you guys now. We're like, blow the damn gate, Kanak. I want to hear that line in every single one of like the races and genders, how it was delivered. Because I'm not the biggest fan in the world of the human female voice, but it was she delivered that line really well. Blow the damn gate, blow the damn door, whatever it was. Blow the damn door, Kanak.
I tend to like the female or male Sylvari. They sound annoyed with everybody that they talk to all the time. So I like those actors.
Yeah.
I mean, who did I do? Oh no, I did it on.
You cut out there, Alex.
Sorry, I did it on my Norn, and my Norn sounded suitably irked. that Canuck was taking a while.
So the gate blows, and there's another cutscene. And woohoo, cutscenes. I've gone on rants that said I want more cutscenes because I was disappointed by the lack of cutscenes, the lack of the amount of cutscenes in Path of Fire. And they loaded this episode with cutscenes, and it was glorious. So there's another cutscene with the door blowing, the Generation 3 plague, because they keep talking about this throughout the episode. There's like Generation 1, Generation 2, and then when the door opens, it's confirmed that he was working on Generation 3, which I guess is full-on zombies. I don't really quite understand the difference between the generations, but apparently that was really, really, really bad. So Timey, who is now full Hollowsmith, puts like a hollow projected shield over the door to keep them in.
Winds up Scruffy's arm and fires it out.
it was great animation in all the
Graham puts his bubble up, and
they all put all their defensive stuff up, and then the queens and their ghost army come through, and they're like, "We'll handle this because they can't hurt us." So they go in and they contain everybody there. They contain the Gen 3 zombies, basically. And then we're like, all right, we got to find another way in. And I think everybody stays there to fight or to defend the gate. But Bram's just like, I'm going this way, like off the cliff. And he just like jumps off the cliff.
He like mate.
And apparently he knew where this other opening was, because he's gone. And so we follow him down there, kind of go in the back way, and find something that I certainly was not ready for, not expecting. Our clones.
Yeah.
That was so crazy, man.
Joko's a little obsessed with the commander.
Yeah. Ever since we sort of abandoned him in the domain of the lost, and then stole his army, and that he's been somewhat annoyed. And to be honest, we probably could have freed him in the domain of the lost when we died, but meh. We had other things to do. We were busy.
I remember walking up on the body. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that's me. Why am I dead on the ground? And then Bram's like, no, there's like 10 of you.
You're a twin. No, you're a triplet. You're a quadruplet. Like, what's going on? And it was great because I stopped at the first body and I was just like staring at it because I was just like, I don't understand. First of all, I was like, how does this person have legendary armor? I don't think they earned that. So I was like,
your legendary insights.
And then when I kept walking and saw all these bodies, I was like, that's not legendary armor. Those are fakes. Those are big fakes.
Those are phony legendary armors.
So there's your body, your character's body, like in cages on the side, in the middle of the hallway with like a blood trail. You get into a room and there's like torture devices. So basically, and it ends up being an illusion. It's all an illusion, but these were actual people. They were just illusioned to look like the commander. And so basically, Joko has been making these people, these just innocent people, look like the commander and torturing them. Yeah. Which is totally messed up.
A bit weird.
It's so dark.
And Bram's like, oh, good, they're just regular people.
They're just regular dead people.
Oh, that didn't come out right.
That was the best line.
You're a very compassionate man, bro.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Joko's not the smartest tool in the shed, though, because he leaves a ring of Lissa just laying around. So you're like, oh, good, everything's an illusion. I can see your traps now, Joko. I thwarted you.
Right. So what I want to do is I kind of want to touch on this a little bit. So this is the second Listen artifact that we found inside a season and an expansion of Guild Wars 2. The first was the cracked mirror that Balthazar had when he was masquerading as Lazarus, and now Lissa has, given, or he's somehow Joko has managed to get his ring, and I don't know, like where do we think this is going? Has Lissa sort of split? So, maybe she's gone completely off a rocker and she's now split into a two actual personalities, and you know, in the next expansion, one of them's going to be good Lissa, who's going to you know, guide you through, and then the other's going to be like completely evil Lissa.
That would be really cool.
Who's going to be like the bad guy of the next expansion.
That would be amazing. Was it actually a ring of Lissa? I don't remember it being. I don't remember
it
Lissa
doesn't
being
say in
named.
the story, but the symbol that's on the ring is a Lissa symbol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that myself right away, but it was all over Reddit.
Oh, okay.
And another another slightly more tenuous link is that Kralkatorrik is purple and so is Lissa's magic, but that's that is grasping at some
I think
straws.
that's grasping, but I'm game.
But yeah, but it's, I mean, Lissa's always been one of those gods that is kind of quite invested in everything. There's obviously the Mesmers have quite a close affinity to Lissa, kind of sort of canonically, I guess, and the way that they keep dropping little bits of Lissa stuff in there, it just makes me think that, you know, maybe Lissa wasn't quite the goody two shoes that we thought she was. I mean, it's kind of interesting that Lissa was also the one that spoke for the gods in Nightfall at the end when you defeated Abaddon and Cormier joined them.
Right.
So I think in amongst a circle of equals, Lissa may be first amongst equals, and especially now that Balthazar's dead, who I think was probably objectively the most physically strong, but Lissa has that mental capability about her that she can be a bit tricky. I think there's a lot more to Lissa than we're
Sure. I don't know how much of a role she really plays in the story. We have seen her a couple of times, but we don't really know where Balthazar got the mirror. We assume he stole it, I guess, or found it.
Yeah.
And the ring is just laying there.
Yeah.
So
and the mirror was in fact a cracked mirror as well. I mean, I can't remember if. Oh, bye, Peachy.
no, I think it cracked when.
Did it crack when? Did it crack when we attacked, or?
Yeah, when we exposed him, I think.
Yeah.
And that's true. We didn't lose the ring. We technically could still have it, or should still have it. It's cool. It's interesting.
That's pretty powerful if we just have a ring that like dispels illusions. Just like no questions asked. That's pretty powerful.
We don't need you anymore, Casimiro. We've got a special ring.
What if Lissa is manipulating other powerful beings in Tyria to be eliminated by the commander, or for us to eliminate, or for them to eliminate each other? So then she comes in and does a power grab. Eh?
Going into the next expansion, now that Joko's gone, we need another antagonist that's not just the dragon, right?
That isn't
I
just
don't know if they're gonna do that again, where our main antagonist is just this faceless dragon. You know, you need like some.
My theory is that Kralkatorrik will be replaced or put asleep or something by the end of the season. And the big shocker will be, oh my god, there's a new
villain. Yeah.
Either the underwater dragon or something else.
Yeah. And they did say in the AMA that they probably Orin. They did say in the AMA the other day that they wanted to knock off Joko at this point in the season so that they could build up them. They could build up their main antagonist for this season, which is a bit weird because Joko as a main antagonist for an entire season, it seems like a pretty safe bet, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
And so, yes and no. From the AMA and all the information we got there, which was really great to hear from the narrative writers there. I understand, and we'll be getting to this, I guess, shortly. But I understand the reasoning for it. I just wanted a little bit more than what we ended up with.
For Joko, like you wanted more Joko?
For Joko, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Joko really shined in this episode, and I think they did a phenomenal job. People were saying that they wanted back that Guild Wars 1 snarky, goofy, jokey Joko, and we got that. We got that 100% in this episode.
And then
because he was so lovable in this episode.
We got that, but we got a little bit more, right? He was, after the Signet area, you go through a whole bunch of traps and stuff, and he's taunting you.
Yeah.
And he's bringing up a lot of the like, if you didn't play Path of Fire, perhaps, and you just went into the story, he's sort of filling in some of the stories. Hey, remember the time you left me in the underworld and you took control of my guys and yada. Like, so it's nice that they have those recalls. He's giving jabs at you the entire time you're going through those areas. But at the same time, they're allowing him to sort of breathe a little bit and be jokey and be snarky and be Joko. But he does have a bit at the end where his menace comes through, where he's not being jokey anymore. The fun is over,
Yeah.
And he's being truly a bit sinister with the player character there. And that dialogue was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of you guys who kind of watch this regularly know that I tend to have an issue with the whole kind of one-shot thing that we seem to be getting in the living story episodes, mainly because I always feel that they don't dedicate the background story to the characters that they introduce for like these short periods of time, and then they wave them off like they did with Livia, like they did with Lazarus as well. But he turned out to be Balthazar, so I guess that's kind of a moot point. But they gave all this great stuff to Joko. Like the dialogue is so fantastically well written. I think it's still Nolan North, his voice actor, isn't it?
Yeah.
He performs it so well, and we've kind of got to know Joko through this episode and through Path of Fire and the build up and a little more about his motives, only to have him die at the end of the episode like halfway through a season. And to me, I just thought, I think I don't want to be 18 months down the line and there'll be someone at ArenaNet going, God, I wish we kept Joko alive. But then I guess there's the argument of whether or not he is truly dead.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
to bring him back,
we can sort of talk about that too. I think the other good thing that Joko did in this episode, because Bram is with you, and ArenaNet's trying to rebrand Bram.
Yeah.
Because a lot of players really hated him from that one episode of Cracking the Ice.
Mm-hmm.
Not wrongfully so, mind you, but the entire time Joko is not only throwing insults at you, but he's calling Bram an idiot. All you brought was one idiot Norn with you. I bet he can't even spell epidemic. He's basically just saying how stupid Bram is, and why did you bring this stupid Norn? And even when he traps you, and Bram does his thing, is like, I'll get you out of this, and he knocks you out, and he takes your place in the cage or whatever. Joko's like, that's it? That's your great plan? Good job. Well done, you stupid Norn. It's like, he is sort of the surrogate for the player base who dislike Bram.
Yeah. By
just saying, you are so stupid and annoying and useless. And I really sort of appreciated that a little bit from ArenaNet, allowing players to hear their frustrations echoed by somebody in the story.
Yeah.
What was cool as well about, I think it was one of the last bits of Joko's dialogue, was that he wasn't doing it just because he's evil. That, I mean, he takes credit for your victories and he has a bit of a giggle, and he's doing the whole Scarab Plague thing, but there's this thing that it's like his last half dozen lines of dialogue where he says he essentially reveals that he's doing it to save the world from you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
calls us the villain.
Yeah, and
he's not wrong.
Yeah, that's what I was applauding. I was applauding because I love that notion, and he flat out says, "You're killing 2 dragons, the lifeblood of this world. How can you be so monumentally stupid to do that?" And I was just like, "Yeah."
There's this bit. I found it on the wiki, and he says, "Fear not, the world will forget you. The scars you've gouged into it spell out your name for all to see. Yes. I confess, I was happy to take credit for your victories, but did you ever stop to wonder what that says about you? That so many bought what I was selling. They call me a monster and you a hero. The world expects Palo Joko to dare to throw reality into chaos, but surely no mortal would be so monumentally stupid as to destroy a dragon, the life force of this world, let alone 2, and a god to boot. Perhaps they will finally thank me for luring you to me, so that I may save the world from you. Once you're gone, everyone will flock to my embrace. They will all love me, Palawai Ignatius Joko." And just like that whole...
Ignatius.
Yeah. Nom.
It was so well written and so well performed, so well animated in a cutscene. It was one of the best things I've seen in a long time in this game. I was completely enthralled. Your character in the cutscene with him, even though you were immobile and not moving, there was still expression on the face. I've seen a couple different of the player characters' like facial expressions during that cutscene, and I think some were better done than others. I loved the human female. I could the expression looked like you were angry but scared at the same time, and the eyes were moving. It was brilliant. It was beautiful.
When he gets up, the mocap or whatever they did on that, when he gets up and he's sort of cracking his joints back into place and adjusting his head, and he's just like, trying to put himself back together while he does his monologue was fantastic. And then to sort of emphasize some of his points, and he talks about the life force of Tyria, and he just motions over and just sucks the energy out of his awakened. The way that was delivered, and like you said, his presence and everything, that's what I'm talking about his real evilness, his real menace really shines through. A lot of people will keep calling him this Joker character, but he sort of sheds that in that moment, in that scene, right? Because he becomes very serious. For the first time, in my opinion, he really shows how strong he is by throwing his magic around, and how much he clearly understands about the dragons and about the world that the player character just has no clue over. We're running around killing dragons and doing whatever, and he's like, "How stupid are you?" It was just so great. It was the cutscene was great, the dialogue was great, the delivery was amazing. Easily one of my favorite, if not my favorite moment in Guild Wars 2 since launch, I think.
Wow.
It was just that well done.
It really was. It really
was. It's kind of interesting as well that what I was going to say, because Joko's kind of arch nemesis overall is Thorn, is King Thorn, isn't it? And you see a lot of parallels between them. I'm sure we've probably talked about this before, but you see a lot of parallels, because Mad King Thorn has this very jokey side, as does Joko, but then both of them are just at their core, they're just rotten and evil, aren't they? The stuff that King Thorn did to his wives and his subjects and everything. It's not. It's almost identical to what Joko did to all of his people, because there's that crypt that you find in. Is it in the Desolation, where there's all the bodies of Joko's former mistresses and husbands and all that kind of thing, where it's just a massive corpse pile somewhere.
I don't know.
I don't know if you ever found that. It's this. It's just cool that there's these kind of really interesting similarities between the two, and the way that they kind of mirror each other. And we've managed to kill one of them. Well, sort of. I think Aurene has to take a lot of the credit, really, doesn't she?
Yeah, so that was such a powerful...
All of the credit, actually.
Scene. Yeah, all of the credit, really. You're right. So what do you think about that? Do you think it fit? I mean, I lost it when Aurene came at the end of that because I was fully enthralled, and then just out of nowhere, I mean, you don't see...
Yeah.
I like how they did it, though. You don't see Aurene, like, flying in the background. You're not, like, expecting it. Like, they make you completely enthralled with what Joko's saying because you can't do anything, and they show that you can't do anything with your player character. You're not just standing there, like, waiting and saying, like, well, why isn't my character attacking him during this monologue, you know?
Yeah.
So that part was brilliant. You don't expect Aurene, and she flies in, and really... throughout the episode they say, like, well, how do you kill him? How do you kill someone? And he even says, like, my the tales of my immortality are not exaggerated. He's like, you can't kill me, and so really Aurene consuming the magic that's keeping him alive really is like the only way to defeat him. Now granted, he still has, it's possible that he could rise somehow, but so I was a little bit like, is this just kind of like we went through all of this and then Aurene just eats him and that's it at first? But as I kept thinking about it, I was like, no, because that is the way that you defeat him. Aurene really is the answer. And I tried to think of the different ways. Like, I'll admit, in my live, anybody who was there for my live Raw playthrough, I said... I kind of like threw out is this like an Aurene Ex Machina? Aurene just flies in and eats them and saves us. But
yes and no.
When I called that at first, but looking back on it, I'm like, there's what other way could they have done it? We could have had this grand plan to get Aurene in there, and it would have been the same result, the exact same result. We finally get her in there, and she eats them, and it wouldn't have been, I think, as impactful as the way they presented it.
I didn't love the Aurene bit. It felt very... It felt very Last Jedi for me with Luke Skywalker and projecting himself in that movie. So it felt very Last Jedi to me. I felt a bit underwhelmed by his death. At the same time, like Aurora saying, I don't know a better way for us to kill him. And ArenaNet said at one point they toyed with the idea of letting Joko live a half episode longer, which I would have enjoyed personally. I know not everybody feels that way. But if he lives a half episode longer, what do you do with him? Do you bury him under rock again like Tariasa?
Right.
Is that more satisfying than Aurene just jumping in and biting him in the gut or whatever? Yeah. I don't know that it is. And while I might not like it, I do understand that ArenaNet said, look, we feel like we wrote this really amazing part for Joko. We felt like we made him very likable. And for the most part, they seem to have conveyed that. Let's just take him out at the height of popularity and just be done with it. If we let him linger for too long, you're just going to hate him, and then all of that work we did will sort of be lost. So I do understand their perspective. I would have liked the half episode more because I feel like for some people, myself included, we just started to like Joko. We just started to feel like, oh my God, this guy is well written for. He's pretty awesome. He's got this menacing, sinister side, and then he's just dead. And it's just like, oh, is this Lazarus all over again? Because that didn't feel good either.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it makes sense that Aurene she's a magical creature. She's a magical dragon. They're trying to convey a story about Aurene as well, and this really moves her story forward.
It does.
By consuming his energy. So I didn't love it, but it didn't ruin the story for me. It didn't make me like, oh my, I'm angry, internet. I'm telling you all of my thoughts. Like, it didn't make me want to do that, but I was kind of like, I sat there for a moment. I'm like, really didn't like that. So I don't know. I didn't love it, but I understand why, and I think, unfortunately, even though I like Joko's menace in that scene, I don't know that there's a much better way to sort of kill or do away with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, something more or less permanent did have to happen with him, because you can't just go with someone like Joko. He's not just gonna go away. He's not just gonna go, oh, my plan failed, or my plan has been, it's got a bit of a hold up. I guess I'm gonna go away for another 3 years until I'm needed again. It's like, Joko's the kind of character that is, he's just single. He's got a single purpose to. He's got a single purpose. He's single-minded in what he needs to do. So he's not just going to kind of wander off at the first sign of a hiccup, is he?
Yeah, I think he went out on a high note.
Somebody suggests like maybe there should have been one more fight with you and Aurene versus Joko, and then she overcomes him or whatever. Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe that would have felt a little more satisfying to me than this abrupt end. Some people are going to love the abrupt end, the shock.
Yeah.
And some people, and that's like the Walking Dead shock, right? Oh my God, it died out of nowhere, even though, and now we're all angry. And some people aren't going to like the shock. It's just, it is what it is, I guess. But Aurene, they had some interesting things to say in the AMA about Aurene and the story with her. Canuck even alludes to, did she get more violent and angry by consuming Balthazar's energy? And he's like, well, maybe that's just the way dragons are. What do I know, But, I think, and in the AMA they allude to this, that's exactly what's happening, that these magics that she consumes, and now with Joko, it does alter her. And as ArenaNet said, they're trying to convey that she's not your pet dragon anymore.
You're right.
This is no longer learn how to train a dragon. She's already that. She doesn't need your help necessarily. She does need you for emotional support and for that bond that you two have, that Vlast didn't have. And in Path of Fire, they try to convey how important that is. But she is evolving, and I do think that she's going to be sort of a villain in the future. I think she's going to get a little out of control.
Or we're going to have to control her. Yeah.
I think we're going to have to bring her back to the good guy side.
We need her to become an Elder Dragon. Eventually. Yeah. She needs to become an Elder Dragon, but we want her to be a good one.
Right.
And that's that's why that bond is so strong. And yeah, you're right. We can't, they need to not just like completely throw that out, because that was so important in Path of Fire, and that's some of the mastery tracks in season 4 is that bond with Aurene. So I think that's going to come more heavily into play. Yeah. We're going to have to maybe calm her. We're going to have to maybe she goes and tries to should I eat these people? Because she's got Kralkatorrik influencing her. She's got all these magics influencing her, and she's getting more powerful and unstable, really. And she's just growing.
And Canuck really has a great line there too, where he's like, "Oh, she's now big enough to eat people. That's good to know."
That's great.
Yeah.
What's kind of interesting is that the other dragons aren't objectively evil.
Right. Well, Mordramoth maybe, but yeah.
Mordramoth's just a bit of a lunatic, but in essence, the dragons more or less are a natural phenomenon in Tyria, and because they're attacking our way of life, we feel threatened. It's sort of like the Reapers in Mass Effect, or spoilers, the kind of in Infinity War, the concept of entropy that Thanos has, that eventually you get to a point where you have to reset something. And the Elder Dragons are there for that kind of checks and balance system. And we're kind of going along and, go, actually, we like what we're doing now, and we don't agree with how things have always been.
Right.
Right, and the difference is the way the system currently works is dragons wake up, they wreak havoc and destroy everything and kill everyone, consume all the magic, then they go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And they slowly release the magic again until the magic is too much in the world and they wake up.
Yeah.
The system that we would rather have with Aurene is that she consume whatever magic she can and keep giving it back to the world at a steady pace that is safe, rather than the two extremes of all or nothing, you know.
Right.
So she's more of a release valve rather than this magic sponge that the devs have alluded to before.
But she has to grow into that elder dragon, and the magics are. I mean, she after Path of Fire, when she consumed all that magic, she grew. When we saw her again in season 4, she was much bigger because she was just still a baby in Path of Fire. And they showed that at the end, where when she consumed all of the magic that Balthazar was holding, she kind of like was like twitching and she was convulsing and she was like, you know, going crazy because all these magics were going into her. And I see a comment in chat saying, I don't know if I like the magic having a personality. It's not necessarily a personality. It's like they explained it in season 3. Timmy said that the dragons each have like I forget the term, but like there's plant magic and there's death magic. It's like types of magic or like frequencies of magic. It's not all just one magic. There's like slightly different frequencies. And
the Chalk have an organ, Spencer, that filters all that magic into just energy. That's what they eat. That's what the Chalk eat. So the Chalk don't care where they're getting their magic from because they have an organ that filters it into natural magic or whatever, I guess. It's not influenced by anything. We don't know that Aurene has that organ. And I don't think she does. Probably
not. Do you think that's going to come back into the story suddenly? Hey, remember Spencer? That filters the magic?
Maybe.
I think that's huge.
Yeah,
I mean, when we learned that, when she said she was working on that, like, that was gigantic. That was huge. And that was how she was studying the different frequencies of magic. So I really hope they bring that back, because that was...
Are we just going to, like, jam it into Aurene and, like, sew it onto the side of the kidney or something?
Gord just says, time for surgery. Let me just cut her open. Gotta get just stuff Spencer in there. Okay, we're good to go. Sew her back up.
Who knows? Because now she's got this undead Lich power in her.
That'll be an achievement. You gotta play Operation on Aurene. Get rid of that funny bone. We don't need that. No. Put Spencer in there. Oh, I hit the sides. I failed. I gotta start again.
Killed Aurene.
Dang it.
Oh my god. We can make the organ into a saddle. There you go. Perfect.
Oh no. That's grim.
Oh my goodness. The other thing that I was wondering at the end of the episode was they talked about the Awakened.
Yes.
So the Awakened, Joko's, you know, he makes the dead rise into these Awakened minions. Even though Joko got killed and his magic got consumed, the Awakened didn't just die. The Awakened they're dazed, is what Tiny said. The Awakened seem like they're in a daze. So are they going to have their own free will? Are they going to...
I think so.
Sounded like, they just weren't going to be under Joko's control, but they're going to keep living.
Right. So I think I think that in the next episode there'll be a little something about the Awakened and how they're doing. But you have to remember, too, in Path of Fire, the first time you get to Vavi, there's a person there that says, listen, you need to understand the culture of Vavi. They're used to Joko. They're used to him ruling. When someone dies, when a loved one dies, they expect them to get awakened. That's just how it is here. So you can't just rip Joko out because you'll destroy their whole culture.
Yeah.
But we did just that. So now Joko's gone.
I was thinking that Vavi is now a very unstable, leaderless sort of nation state, isn't it?
So here's the thing: you took out their leader. You took out. They're definitely going to have to adjust to their loved ones now are not going to come back, but they can still function because all of the current Awakened didn't just fall over lifeless. Right. If that was the case, then Vavi would be in serious trouble because the Awakened, like, they farm for them, they do, they do labor, they're part of how their society and their economy functions. So you didn't take that away. So they could still, like, live, but you are probably going to have people, like, religious fanatics in the streets. Our dead aren't going to come back now, so people are going to have to actually, like, maybe bury their dead. So I think the culture is going to change, and there's going to have to be a new leader, but they're going to survive. Whereas if all of the Awakened just died, like, they literally might not survive. So that'll be interesting. And I also hope that in the next episode I don't think we're going to have like an instance about Vabi, but I think and I hope that it's going to be mentioned, and what, you know, oh, the Awakened, they have free will, and
conversation of something.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of dialogue to let us know about that, because that's huge, and that was something that was in our face when we first entered Vabi, was that NPC telling us about that. So
yeah.
Oh, what about Koss? Oh, Koss can finally be freed from the cave.
Yeah.
Yes.
Koss can join Dragon's Watch.
Yes.
Awaken Koss.
Awaken Koss.
Oh man.
But overall, the story has probably been the strongest it's been for a good long while.
Yeah.
For a Living World episode, I'd hazard to say that the story side of this episode has probably been the strongest, or if not the strongest, if not one of the strongest Living Season episodes that there's been.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
this one was extremely strong. I mean, the dialogue was witty, the voice acting was on point, the animation was on point, the cinematics. Holy crap! I can't say enough about how I personally love the cinematics, because for me it gets me more immersed and it gets me more connected to the characters.
Big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so unfortunately we don't have time today, guys, to go through the mount and the map and all of that, because we were already at quite a long show, because it was such a good episode, so we wanted to focus on that. But
the map was total ass. What? Nothing.
Oh, Alex.
Nothing. Didn't say anything.
And he'll tell you his real feelings over on his channel on twitch.tv/literallyplayable. But yes, please go and follow these wonderful guys on both Twitch and YouTube, MMO Inks and Literally Playable, and on Twitter. You can see the Twitter handles right on the screen. So please, and go and give them support for more Guild Wars 2 content and other gaming content. And thank you guys for joining us today. It was a real pleasure, and it was awesome to get back together with you guys.
Yeah, it's been too long. Too long.
So continue to enjoy the episode, guys. Go and play on the map, get your achievements, get your roller beetle. I gotta finish getting my roller beetle. I have like one more thing to do.
Me too.
So I can't wait to ride that thing around. It's gonna be so much fun. Alright guys, have a wonderful day, enjoy the content, and we will see you next time. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.